Hello everyone, Daniele here. Today I would like to talk about how you can mirror your bug.roll or bug.score objects onto a mobile device and how you can modify your roll and score directly from your mobile device. That's also going to be the case for data objects as we will see at the end, but let's start with bug roll and bug score. Especially, let's start with bug roll. Let's take a bug.roll and how can we mirror it onto a mobile device? The idea is to take advantage of two well-known packages in Macs called Mira and MiraWeb. You can find it in the package manager. I guess that Mira should also come pre-installed in your Mac's version, while MiraWeb should be installed manually as far as I remember. But in any case, you should check that you have them um, in your package manager. If you don't, you can install them. MiraWeb requires Mira. Mira is supposed to work with, I think, mostly iPads. I don't own Apple mobile devices, so I will use MiraWeb instead. But MiraWeb needs Mira to work. So we need both of them somehow. Once you have them, you have an object called mira.frame, which will constitute your window that you will cast on the mobile device. It means that whatever you drag onto the window will be cast on the mobile device. When I say whatever, I only mean the UI objects that are compliant with Mira. And you can see whether an object is compliant with Mira or not by dragging it onto the Mira.frame. As I take this comment and I drag it onto the Mira.frame, I see that a little M appears. This means that the object will be cast. It's Mira compliant. On the other hand, if I take my bug.roll and drag it, nothing happens. I mean, I don't have any M. That's because there's no public API, as far as I know, of Mira, which means that there's no way we can support a native mirroring of bug.roll or bug.score onto a Mira frame. But there's a workaround. The workaround we use usually is the fpic object. The fpic object represents a picture. It contains a picture. So if I take an fpic, that will contain a picture. We have to load it in order to see it. But once we have loaded it, we can also mirror it on the Mira.frame because it's Mira compliant. So that's what we are gonna do. We are gonna save the state of the bug.roll as a picture, load the picture in an fpic, and the fpic will be cast on our mobile device. How do we do that? Before we turn on the mobile device and we connect to it, let's see how we do this process. Well, we do it by taking advantage of the notify paint attribute. This attribute works in this way. Whenever the object is repainted for any reason, the playout will send a painted notification, exactly with a painted message. We retrieve it, we send a bang to a speed limit just to make sure that we don't do this too often, and we export the state of the bug.roll, the visual state of the bug.roll, as a PNG image. We do that now. I'm doing this in the temp folder, but it really doesn't matter where you do that, wherever you want. The important thing is that you should also add @view raw. This means that Bach will export whatever it's shown in the UI object right now. It's not gonna cook the content in any way. Good. Once we've done that via defer low, so we are sure that it happens later after the file has been saved, we load the picture in an fpic object. So the same picture is loaded into the fpic. And that's pretty much it, honestly. If we ignore this other part, which is about retrieving the finger events, so let me just delete it for a while. This is already perfectly functioning patch that will cast my little bit of roll onto a mobile device. To do so, I never remember how to do that, but if you have everything installed, you should go in the extras menu and you have a MiraWeb overview. And there's a WebSocket connection available you should copy paste this element in your web browser. Well, if your web browser is on your mobile device, you better write it from scratch or in so that's what I do. I'll take my tablet. So in order to connect the mobile device to the MiraWeb system, I just open the Google Chrome browser, type in the numbers I had seen in the MiraWeb overview, and and a little connecting interface appears. All I need to do is usually click on connect. Once I do that, what comes up is an interface with 4 tabs. Why 4? Because I had 4 Mira.frame objects in my patch. Every Mira.frame object has a name, and you see it at the beginning of at the top of the tab. This was the one I was handling right now. So it's called My Mira Roll. If I open the tab, you can see that I see the same bug.roll I have on my patch. I'm splitting the screen. I'm putting a little box so you can see both the screen and the mobile device, but you get a point. If I move something here, it's gonna be moved not only in the Mira.frame fpic object, but also on my mobile device as well, and so on. This is the basic gist of it. So you can actually just mirror things by using this trick, exporting a score, importing it in a fpic object, and then mirroring the fpic object onto the Mira.frame. But another thing we can do is also to use the mobile device as an interface. So we can retrieve the movement of the finger, especially the position of the fingers, the tapping, and so on and so forth. In order to do this, we have to use Mira.multitouch. That's the easiest way, at least. So let me get back to what I had deleted. What I had deleted were 4 things. The Mira.multitouch object, this one, you see it's Mira compliant by definition almost, and I put it exactly on my bug.roll, and I resize it so that it really coincides with it, because we have to retrieve the finger movements on that part of the window. Second, I'm using the outlet of Mira.multitouch and giving it to bug.roll. The outlet of Mira.multitouch gives us essentially the configuration of the fingers and what's going on with the touches, taps, swipes, and so on and so forth. We take whatever it comes out from here. We don't really care. We prepend the empty message standing for multitouch, and we give it to the bug.roll. It'll sort it out. So that's all we need to do. Once we do that, I can press my finger somewhere, and this corresponds to selecting things. I mean, clicking, exactly like clicking on the bug.roll. I can press my finger and drag, and this creates a selection. I can perhaps take the nodes of the selection and move them up or down, or left or right. You see that everything is sync. Another thing I can do is to use the tap. As you see, I'm putting tap enabled, and I'm saying that tap count is 2. Those are attributes of Mira.multitouch, so that I can tap twice and create nodes. On the other hand, it's quite hard with my fingers to exactly select the nodes I want to, and perhaps take them and drag them somehow. It's not impossible, but it's really hard to do. So the second thing I want to show you is that you can build a little bit of a control around this patch. You see that I still have a Mira.frame object here. The name is my Mira roll with controls. You can change the name of a Mira object just by changing the tab name attribute. This will be the tab name displayed on your mobile device. For the other things, the patch is really pretty much the same, except that I'm using send and receive now instead of cables. And I'm also adding some messages. The messages will actually pilot the bug.roll, so play, stop, delete, distribute, legato. And I have a bit of the patch that also transpose the content of the selection and inverts it with respect to a pivotal node. I'm not going to enter into details how this is achieved in the patch. It's via the so-called in-place syntax, which changes the sense of the selected nodes. But this is not the point of the video. This is just to exemplify the fact that you can use MiraWeb in order to build. Let's see how. For instance, I change tab. Here we go. You see that now this tab is showing the same thing I'm showing here. So if I take something here and change it, it's gonna be changed everywhere again. But this time what I can do is, for instance, let's say select something and transpose it by 5 semitones up or down. and or inverting it, why not? Or I can play, or I can delete them, and I create another note, and I distribute all of them evenly in time, and I also make so that there are no gaps between them with the legato message, and so on and so forth. This is just a quick example. You can put whatever you want, of course, as the roll messages in your interface. Another thing I want to share with you is how to display in a mobile device a part for someone who has to read it eventually. So let's say I have a score part that I want to be displayed in my mobile device. What I can do is the same thing, except that instead of exporting the bach.score or bach.roll as image in a raw view, I use a scroll view. Why? Because a scroll view will provide me with a lot of systems, one below each other, so that I can vertically scroll down, up and down, in order to have a coherent score. You can also see that when I do this with my little slider, the fpic is scrolled up and down. It's not actually scrolled because there's a y offset attribute. What's happening is that I'm changing the vertical offset of the object, but that's essentially the same thing for us. So you choose a reasonable size, it's 300 for me, and whenever I scroll the slider, I'm changing the offset of the image. Notice that when I use the export image at view scroll, Bach is smart enough to actually fit the measure on each horizontal system. So that's usually handy for bach.score. For bach.roll, you'll have the same length on each system and so on. But except for this, the mechanism is the same. Only we are not exporting a new image each time the object is repainted, because it may be too heavy now. But we are using the last outlet of the bach.score object to intercept whenever the object is changed. And in that moment, we export a new image and load it into the fpic. And of course, I should also mention that all of this is scrollable from the UI interface as well. So what I mean is that if I am a singer, perhaps this is convenient. I can scroll my part. If I am, I don't know, a saxophonist, perhaps I need a sort of pedal, and we can add some sort of control here to include the pedal and the pedal changing the position of the image and so on and so forth. One last thing I want to mention is that the same thing we did with bach.roll and bach.score is doable for most of the data UI objects, which are also ready to understand the MT message from mirror.multitouch and can also be mirrored in an fpic via the export image system. So in this case, I have a data.bounce. I can take elements in my interface and move them. I can tap in order to start playing. I can tap in order to stop playing. I apologize for the laggishness of my device. It's an old one, but on your device it should be much smoother, both the transmission and the display. That's all for today. I hope this was somehow informative, and till next time.